All right, we're back with another Big Hunt Guys podcast. You got myself, Brady Miller, here. And once again, the man, the myth, the legend, the glassing guru. I'm going to keep saying you're a glassing guru, Cody Nelson, because you are.
Jay keeps calling me that, so
yep.
I'll take it.
Yep, it's got you back again. And before we keep going here on this, I just want to say that I was reading through some of the comments that we got in the last podcast you and I did, and it sounds like we got to do some more podcasts together because got really good feedback about it. Just loved the deep dives we were doing into optics and glassing and just different techniques. I think people appreciate it.
It's kind of a long, it's a long distance relationship.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like that.
Yeah, see where I'm going
with that?
Long
distance relationship, long distance glassing.
Yeah, we're. Distance. I try to get up here a couple times a month if I can do that. It's hard during the busiest seasons because we're cranking stuff out about as fast as we can do it, and I'm on the phones 99.9% of my day, so it's hard to break 100% free during the the busy season. But every time else, we got a lot of stuff planned for this fall and spring, so we should have a good time.
And like I always say, we're cut from the same cloth. You and I love our optics, love glassing, love
optics
helping
are where
people.
It's at, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Optics are where it's at. I drive up in my truck and it's old and worn out, but my optics are bright and shiny. I love it.
Exactly. Spend the money on things that make most sense in life. You can have a fancy truck or you can have some nice optics. I'd rather have some nice optics and live in a wall tent and not have a nice house.
Yeah, it's. I got out this weekend, and I got to be honest with you, it was the first time I got out, and kids are back in school, kids are playing baseball tournaments, and chasing the wife and kids around the house and doing backyard projects and the whole thing, and it's just starting to get. We're going to get cool in Arizona, and my favorite time to glass is pretty much September on.
Yeah, and right now I'm really excited too because it's we're recording this podcast here mid to late September. And it's finally cool enough in Las Vegas where I can go out and shoot my rifle a ton, start doing some long distance shooting, dialing some loads. And I don't know if we're going to see a 100-degree day anymore in Vegas. I really hope that is gone and over with because I need to get out and start working on some stuff.
I don't know. I thought I noticed like 95, 96 today. That's beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful weather.
I think we're probably – I think it was raining when I left the house in Phoenix this morning, so that was nice.
There you go.
So that was good. We got some good stuff planned. And speaking of shooting outside, I got 2 or 3 rifles that we're going to be able to work on, so I'll bring those up. I'm always game to work on some rifles. Do a little content around those. 2 or 3 scopes that have never been profiled, so we'll have some fun with that too. So that'll be good upcoming stuff. But yeah, we've got lots of stuff that's new and kind of coming in the works, and I think people will be excited about what's coming. Yeah, and so before we dive into some of that, we want to also help you guys put some gear in your hands. So if you guys have been listening, we got the promo code podcast. So if you sign up for Insider and use promo code podcast, you're going to get 50 points back to the GOHUNT Gear Shop. So that's solid.
What that's going to do for you right now is everyone needs hunting gear, right?
Yep.
Whether it's new socks, food, optics like we're talking about now. You can use all those points to then purchase optics in the GOHUNT Gear Shop. So get yourself Insider, use promo code podcast, get you our whole suite of Insider tools from the maps to Insider, Filter 2.0, draw odds. It's like we are starting to it may seem crazy, but September, I'm starting to plan for 2023 already.
Yep.
I'm already starting to dive in and look at it. And pretty soon we're going to have updated draw odds on the website, all these different tools.
I had no doubt that was happening already.
Oh, yeah. And then also, if you want to use promo code podcast when you sign up for Explorer, which is their maps only membership. But I want to mention, too, that besides for just maps when you sign up for Explorer, you do get access to the gear rewards. So you can get 20 points back to the GOHUNT Gear Shop. That is a huge value add when it comes to maps, because if you just want maps, well, you can just have your maps in your hand, have them on the web, but we also give other things on that membership as well. So that's why it's great having the gear rewards. When you're shopping, you're getting rewarded for your purchases, and within 1 or 2 purchases, it's going to pay for your Explorer membership.
Exactly.
Like, I don't exactly know off the top of my head some of the points you get for optics, but like if you're going to buy a pair of binos, it's going to pay for your membership and then some.
Yeah. Pretty
quickly.
No, it's if people look at them as a kind of a savings account, it stacks up over a while.
Yeah.
And I have guys that have saved up 400 or 500 points, and they're able to go ahead and take care of a pretty good chunk of something.
That's a good analogy. I don't think I've ever used that one before as a savings account.
Well, it just depends, like how there's different stores out there that dividends or however you want to phrase it, but if you just think about it, like I get a check from Costco every year, right? Mm-hmm. So why not? They give it to you at the end of the year or at the beginning of the next year, and you can use that to purchase something. So, typically the wife and I figure out something that can go to, and that's what we spend it on.
And always remember, folks, too, when you're purchasing things in the GOHUNT Gear Shop, when you're any of our membership levels, Insider, Explorer, like 1 point equals $1.
That's correct.
So if it says 185 points when you purchase this spotting scope, that's $185 you're getting back in your
chunk
savings account to use on then other purchases.
Absolutely a chunk.
So, be sure to use promo code podcast if you guys are looking to sign up for Insider or Explorer membership. So I want to dive in right now, Cody. I think this podcast is going to be all about spotting scopes.
Pretty much.
One of our favorite pieces of gear.
Yeah, I think it's, if I had to, I say this all the time, but it's probably one of the most misunderstood and misused pieces of gear that that we have. Mm-hmm. I don't, and what I mean by that is people talk about it and they call me and they want a glass with a spotting scope, and I don't necessarily glass with a spotting scope for long periods of time.
Yep.
I might validate on whether a buck is a big buck, or is the deer that I'm seeing, is it a buck or is it not a buck, or is it doe or what is it? Mm-hmm. Is that whatever I see underneath that tree at shade at 2 miles, do I need to get a closer look, or
or is that just a bunch of branches?
Like I look at it as a time saver, and but I glass with, I hear you use the term glass, but if I have a spotting scope on my tripod, with the exception of filming something or digiscoping, if I use a spotting scope more than 10 or 15%, I would say like that would be a lot. Mm-hmm. I just use 2 eyes more often than I use one, and it's more efficient. And I know guys that do better at it than others. I think after a season and you've been glassing every week or 4 or 5, whatever it is, 14 days in a row, or those long marathons like that, I think guys, their muscle fatigue and muscles become more aware of what it's doing, and it's muscle memory, and maybe they don't have as much problem with it. But for a guy that just goes out and he's just going to glass for a couple days at a time, I mean, I've literally been talking to people that have had a spotting scope out all day, and you're 2 hours removed from glassing, and their cheek is quivering and basically cramping up, so to speak. And so I just don't think it has to be that way. Mm-hmm. And so I think there's a smarter, more efficient way to use tripods and bigger optics with 2 eyes, and and that's why we've had this huge surge of 12 power, 15 power, big eyes, BTXs, Kowa Highlanders, and all these things going on in the industry right now, which is really fun to watch and watch happen. And I like it because, it's fun to, people are like, oh man, this is the greatest thing in the world. And I'm thinking, man, we've been doing this for so long. Yeah. And it's like a kid in a candy store. People are just excited about it.
Yep.
And I think that that's good for everything. And, I remember years ago when people would say, I can't believe you're telling everybody, not doing this. And there's certainly some much bigger name people than I am that were doing that. And people were like, well, I don't ever want this secret to get out, that, we're beyond that. And
it's all about helping people.
It's about helping people. It's about enjoying the outdoors, finding game. And, I look at it this way. If you have guys out searching for stuff and they're looking at longer distances and finding game and whatever, to me, it actually makes them, I don't use the word smarter, but they're hunting more efficiently, which means they're not out actually in amongst the deer just blowing them out of the country.
Yep.
So I think there's a lot of good things that come from it, and I just the spotting scopes they're a tool, and they're a tool for me that's used pretty much less than any other tool in the optics game for me.
Yeah. So what were you saying? You think you use a spotting scope 15-20% of the time?
I would literally say if it's over 15% of my day, I would tell you that's a lot.
Unless you're into deer all the time.
Like if
you're into deer constantly and you're looking at something, or maybe you're digiscoping.
Like this weekend, I was glassing a bull up that was just a tremendous bull, and man, I could not have it going. So I had the 115 out, with the digiscoping, and I must have gotten, I don't know, 20 or 30 minutes worth of footage, and they weren't moving, and everything was just perfect. So I just stayed after it, and that doesn't count to me as like glassing. But if that's what you're using it for, great. But I wouldn't just sit there and stare at it, unless I was really trying to score it. And if that happens, it just depends on the situation. But I would tell you 10 or 15% on a normal day.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what my percentage might be, because obviously now I have the BTX eyepiece, but I also have the ATX, and I've used assortment of other, spotting scopes throughout the years. And I think I might be one of those people that use them a little bit more, like a single eyepiece, because I think maybe my glassing strategy, may be a little different, or it's a hybrid, but like after that that early morning, obviously I'm on the binos the whole time, but once it gets later in the day, shadows start moving, deer start bedding.
Yep.
I think that's when a little bit, I will take out a spotting scope just so I can dive into shadows a lot more.
Sure.
Because sometimes I'm not looking, crazy far distances by any means, but I'm just trying to dissect the shadows a little bit easier. And yeah, you do have to deal with a little bit of eye fatigue, because I'm leaning in there the whole time with squinting one eye.
Yeah.
But I think it's just, again, it's another tool in that toolkit. Like, I'm just trying to overly analyze a patch of timber or some area that I know maybe a buck might be in. I'm trying to turn him up. Maybe he didn't show up in that basin that morning, and I'm trying to dig him out.
I think that again, it comes down to the situation. It comes down to, what, when, where, how, and what you're seeing at the time. Yeah, if I'm looking at a whole, strip of mountain, and then there's a patch up there that I just can't really quite see the way I want it, and I need more magnification. Mm-hmm. Sure, I'm not going to tell you that I don't ever take the spotting scope out and turn it up and really focus on it. But yeah, again, it's more for pointed specifics, and then obviously scoring or validation or whatever you're trying to do. It really just depends on where you're at in the game.
How do we determine, is there an optimum objective? An optimum size?
Well,
because we have so many options nowadays. Because I know we have a couple options just sitting here in front of us right now. We're going to talk about in a little bit, but like, what do you think? Like,
if I had just to pick one, first of all, up until recently, 4 or 5 years ago anyway, your choices were 80s and 85s. I mean, that was on the big side. Mm-hmm. Kowa's been, they've had the 88s for a while, but you really didn't have all those options, right? So pretty much the scope of choice that was the high end that everybody would go with would be like an FL dialight or whatnot from Zeiss and or the Swarovski ATS, whichever 80, and those were kind of like considered like the big dogs.
Yep.
Well, Swarovski comes out with the ATS or the ATS STX and the 95, and that kind of changed everything, because not only did that change, but it changed the power or the magnification. Yep. So you went from 20 to 60 to 30 to 70.
Yeah.
Well, I would tell people that before the Kowa, before the Swarovski and the Harpia, right? You really didn't have anything over that 60 power range, and pretty much all the scopes, when you got to 60, it would kind of start to be like
taper off a little bit.
You'd want to back it off until you got the picture back right, and so when I remember distinctly, we had a guy in a shop, and he walked in, and he kind of looked over his shoulder, and he goes, "Is it that good?" And I said to him, very well-known person in Phoenix and archery, and I love him to death, and he's just a super good dude. And I said, it'll be the best thing over 50 power you've ever looked at.
Yeah.
There's just no doubt. And so that I remember that, and remember thinking to myself, God, how far in the power, the magnification range can you go and really still get a quality picture? And then you had the Harpia come out, and then, you had, Kowa came out with the 99, last year. And so there's so much more option as to what we used to have. Yeah. And they're amazing pieces of glasses that are glass now. And so, I guess the question is, you say optimum, and I would tell you that, like right now, I'm running an STX 85.
Yep.
And I know that all of this is debatable. All of this is
that's what I'm hoping. You're leading down the answer I want you to lead down.
It's all depending on what a guy wants and what he's doing for that day.
Yep.
But I've basically come to the fact of, for me personal, on a daily basis, it's hard for me because I love digiscoping and I want the best images I can possibly get. It's really hard for me to go below an 85 millimeter.
Yep.
Now, with all the stuff that's available to us today, there's some option. I mean, the glass and the not just the glass, but the systems in which they're the way they're built and how things are coming together, it's getting better and better and better.
Oh yeah.
So, we'll talk about the STC ATC from Swarovski that just released, and that's another one that, we literally just keep making things better.
Oh yeah.
And it makes you want to have that golf bag. I just wish we had the caddy to carry stuff, but
exactly.
you end up wanting to have all that stuff, Brady. So optimum,
there is none.
To me, it comes back to, I just always want the best exit pupil I can get.
Yeah.
And so, are there days where I can envision myself with a set of 1242s, and a small spotter, and running up the mountain and being able to look at a very specific canyon? Mm-hmm. And I'm not gonna, I'm not looking at mileage. I'm looking at yards, right? So I think that there's just a time and a place for each of those tools.
Yep.
And there's some guys that are going to play that lightweight game all the time, and some guys are going to just go, you know what, I need the image.
Yep. Yeah, it kind of depends on your use case, whether you're going crazy ultralight backpacking, maybe you're just using a spotting scope glass from your truck, or you're driving around in a side-by-side ATV and doing short hikes from there. It probably just and it comes down to budget too.
I'll show you a video from this weekend, and I'll have to go back and use the measuring on the maps and figure out exactly. But I was somewhere between, where the bull was in cows to where I was, it was somewhere between 400 and 500 yards the whole time. And you have that on an STX 85, or I'm sorry, an STX, I had that on the 115. And there's just no doubt in my mind, you can't look at that video footage and go, how does it get any better?
Yeah.
I mean, I could see the points. The cheaters, the waviness, the blades. How does it get any better?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and yes, I'm describing a really nice bull, and it was kind of fun to do. But
yeah,
this bull, it was just so fun to sit back and just look at the screen and just enjoy that moment for what it was. And I don't think that's possible if I would have been mismatched with a much smaller spotting scope, where maybe that distance just didn't make sense for it. So again, it kind of comes back to that. The photographers in our audience will know what you mean by this. You can't do everything with one lens. That's if that was the case, why do we have all these other lenses?
Yep.
And so again, all things said, I prefer an 85. I used the 95 for the last 4 or 5 years. But because of the BTX, I've been kind of switching back and forth between the 85 and the 115. So that's kind of my sweet spot.
Yep.
But boy, do I love throwing a 95 on there and going. And it is a little more lightweight, a little more slender, not so bell-shaped at the end. Mm-hmm. Fits in all the pockets real nice. Yep. So, Yeah,
because I want to throw the use case that I know we've discussed together quite a bit. When I was first looking at getting my set of, big optics. I wanted the big eyes type thing. I was looking at the BTX. And so I asked you the question a lot. I was almost dead set on a 95. for the longest time. And then the 115 had been out for maybe a year at that point, I think, when I was looking at it.
Probably a little bit, yeah, that was right about that time.
I think that was like, fall of 2020, so somewhere around there. And so I can't remember exactly what you said, but you had said, like, you'd love the 95, Brady. Like, I like to, kind of go ultra light, but I still have heavy weapon, heavy optics, and that sort of thing. So I do go, I go steep and deep all the time. You're like, it's going to save you a little bit of weight. He's like, you're going to, the way your glassing style is, you look early in the morning, really far away. Late in the evening, you're looking really far away as well. And eventually you might wish you had that 115 with you. It's like, as long as you're willing to carry it, like, the benefit maybe for my style was going to outweigh the 95, and I started reconsidering a little bit. And then since I've picked up the 115, obviously you let me borrow your 95 for a full year, so I was kind of working around trying to figure out what I liked, and I am still to this day ecstatic that I chose the 115 rather than going with the 95 right away, because now it makes sense for me too, because I started big. This might not work for everyone else, but I have a 115, and I can always go lower. Where if I went to 95, I don't think I'd ever want to get an 85. So they're so similar to each other, and I wouldn't ever want to get a 95 and a 115. But now I could get the 115 and maybe eventually get a 65.
Well, this is this is the beauty of like the Kowa 55 series, or Swarovski just released the STCs.
Yep, that's the discussion I'm leaning towards.
With a 56, right? So now I've kind of covered all my bases. I don't have the 65.
Yep.
Right, and so now I'm basically 85 to 115. I'm covered.
Yep.
And yes, I still have the 95, and I will be honest, it gets less use.
Yeah.
But it did go on Brando's hunt, and that was kind of fun. So fun stories. I don't know if we're supposed to talk about that now.
Oh no, he killed the great bull.
No, it's a good deal. It's a great bull, and he should be happy. And Porter and those guys getting to use the BTX and that country, that the glassing was just tremendous. Mm-hmm. But you cover 115 to 85.
Yep.
And then now I have every reason, just to be completely ecstatic about this 56 millimeter.
Yep.
Because now it really does, it is in the lightweight. It is usable power. It doesn't fall off. Everything is good to go.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick. So it's the new ATC and the STC in 17 to 40 by 56, right?
Yeah, 17 to 40 by 56. So Swarovski released, which I have been asking, begging anybody that would listen. I have been wanting just the best of the best compact spotter.
Yeah. Do you think this is like the Cody Nelson edition, the spotter? Could it?
I don't know that it's the Cody Nelson, but I mean,
I know you've been talking about it for a long time.
I can flat out tell you that the guys at Swarovski know that I've been asking when the BTX or the modular series came out. I asked them specifically for a 30 power eyepiece or something to go that maybe could be shortened up and made smaller. And they're like, well, yeah, but we got these new. And I'm like,
exactly.
but I look at that 65, and can we make, I was like, what can we make other parts for? Mm-hmm. Like, can we just add a small, fixed eyepiece to this?
Yep.
And so, when I was doing that, my goal was always to have a compact spotter. I've owned, and I still own, a 25 to 50 loopholed gold ring.
Yep.
I mean, it's that big, but I mean, look, you got it's a 2 millimeter exit pupil. Has it done pretty good for what I wanted it to? Sure, it does, but it's not the glass that we see in optics today.
Mm-hmm.
I owned a 12 by 40 by 60 when that first came out. Now they have an HD version of that, so everything just kind of keeps getting better. And I always wanted just that ultimate compact. That, like just a ridge runner, man, that you could run up to a place, look what you need to do, use your binos first, get good footage of something. And I think the backpacking guys are literally going to go crazy over this.
Yep.
They are selling at a blister pace.
Explain to me your first impression. So I'll just give a little tease. I think you were out in the field. you had mentioned to me a few days before, like, hey, there's gonna be something cool coming out. You can't tell you anything yet, Brady. I'm like, I'll wait. You know,
Well, I was just kind of getting everybody prepped up. Like, hey, I'm gonna call you with some information, and we need to make
some moves happen.
We need to make some moves happen and get it jumping. But
yeah, so I think you were out on the mountain. All of a sudden, I think you called me at like 9:45 or 10 o'clock at night, like after you had been like looking.
Yeah.
And then like you were literally like so giddy.
I was giddy.
You were so. I've never seen you so excited.
I think this is something that I think people have just been wanting this for so long that the examples that we had before this, like, look, this 550 Kowa is an incredible piece of glass. There's no doubt in my mind. But people were expecting things, from Leica or Zeiss or Swarovski, and it was just like it just wasn't happening. And so, you anticipate and you want something for so long. Like, I'll give you kind of a little bit of a history of that. So you have that 12 to 40, and I'll never forget when Swarovski had, when I first saw the first 65 millimeters, like, oh, that. Yeah. And so for the longest time, I thought that was kind of the best, of the smaller spotters. And the one that I was really disappointed that they got rid of was when Leica quit making the 62 millimeter. Mm. And so there's just been all these examples of just awesome spotters that we, could have been used to build and kind of keep going on that subject. And I just was hoping and praying for, but that glass, it's like an EL Swarovision in a self-contained, the eyepiece is not components, it's a 17 to 40, mm-hmm. and it's 56 millimeter. I think it's just been made to be as efficient inside as possible because you're not putting two pieces of glass together. So right there, the two filter pieces that are on the outside that are protecting, when you take these apart, those aren't, they're gone.
So that means you instantly get a little bit brighter or more detail, probably.
I think what it means is you just get a more efficient. There's not as many things to pass through that. I don't know the correct name for that, but I think of friction loss, but it's not friction. But the fact is it's just got an easier path, mm-hmm. and so I was blown away by that piece of glass. It was the edge-to-edge quality was clear, really super, good field of view at I think it's a 186 foot field of view, at the 17 power, and I think it jumps down to 108, at the 40 power. But what I was most amazed with is that when you turned it up to 40 power, there wasn't the fall off in some of the other spotters, that I've used over the years. Yep. I'm sorry. It's just, it just is what it is. Mm-hmm. So I've always thought that when you get below a 2 millimeter exit pupil, you're going against your what's normal and what you want. You want as big as exit pupil as you can. Well, when that happened, I was just like, man, this thing just doesn't disappoint. And I was really kind of searching, like, where does the edge to edge get compromised? Where does and it just doesn't. And I think there's going to be some people that just, when they get it out in the field, it's going to answer all the prayers. The backpackers are going to go absolutely crazy over it.
Yeah, I wish we still had one here in the office right now, so we could show you guys who are watching this on.
They're working on
YouTube.
Them. And I had one for a week, and I had to give it up, because there's just not that many to go around right now. But
when I first looked through it, so I wanted to take it outside and just get it was hard for me to describe like that first feeling, but all I kept thinking about this was like, I think I said we released I don't know what it was, Instagram reel or something like that, but I was like, this is a game changer. Like instantly I was just like, it brings a smile to your face when you look through it and you're like, oh my gosh. And you go from 17 power and you go to 40 power and it's still crystal clear the whole way. And I was looking in the Vegas heat during the late afternoon. There's all these mirages out and it was like cutting it down. I wasn't like glassing super far with it because, I was just at the office here, but like I was looking at the detail in the trees. I was looking at the edge to edge, like you said. I could see all the little leaves moving around. I could see all the little details, and it was just super crisp. And it almost reminds me of looking through like NL Pures.
Well, I mean, and essentially that
they're like NL.
Look, the Pure. I mean, there's a couple things different in the way that they've done that with the Pures, but that's why I said the EL Sworovision, because I think that's what it's most closely related to.
Yep.
I mean, I think we'd have to break it down with the Swaro guys to get all the intricate secrets out there, but I think that's what it is.
Yeah, and it's so compact, it's such a lightweight option. Like,
and by the way, you like the angled.
I love an angled, yeah.
Okay, all right.
And I like too how it just breaks it down, makes it seem like it's a little bit smaller. I'm not sure exactly what the two measurements were off the top of my head right now, but
I can't say this. The angled, I think will for the guys that are using a variety of different, I'll say weighted heads. Mm-hmm. If you're using ultra lightweights, I think the angled, might just, unless you've got a plate system that will allow for a little bit of forward or aft, I think that the angled's going to balance out really nice. Mm-hmm. Even though, I prefer the straights, but. And again, that's another arguable thing. Yeah. We can go down that rabbit hole too. But I don't want anybody to get look. I've used a lot of good glass over the years. I mean, some stuff that, like I always think back to like the Minox, 11 to 33s, and and those were good pieces of glass back in the day, and they were better than what we had been using for small stuff. I don't want anybody to think that I'm just like saying, oh, well, everything else is trash and this is, because it's not true. Yeah. Like this piece of glass sitting in front of us, there's no doubt in my mind that it's worth the $17.99 that it is. And I've used those and taken those out and had a wonderful experience with them. And hence that's why we're now a Kowa dealer.
Yeah.
So, that if I didn't believe, but what I'm trying to provide for people is a choice.
Yeah, we're just providing more options.
Like, and we didn't have those choices, way back when. Mm-hmm. And some of them, there's people that today don't know who Kowa is.
Yep.
And so, but again, there are good pieces at good price points. And I think it goes back to my pillars of glassing, or, buy the best glass you can afford, put it on a tripod, and slow down and be methodical when you glass. If you'll do those three things, I promise you'll find more game.
Yep.
And all these different choices and all these things that we have now, I'm just elated the fact that we have, these kind of choices in the compact spotter world.
Yep. What do you think it's going to do to like 65 millimeter sales? I think people are going to more lean towards one or the other now, or
the modular series, I don't think it's going to hurt.
Yeah,
because guys, if you're invested in that and you're in that, I mean, look, the only thing that's going to be different is that the 65 like STX or ATX on that end, it's still a lot heavier.
Yeah.
So. I don't know that it's going to cannibalize it. Mm-hmm. I think that, I think what it's going to do is it's going to make room for others.
Yeah.
So rather, they just, I have no knowledge of this, but like I saw that piece and I'm like, well, okay, well, I love the modular for what it does, but does the 65 or the older 80s, do they keep getting better when you make them so that they're they're in one unit as opposed to an eyepiece and a body? So like I started thinking like, oh, well, how can we make these better?
Gotcha.
And again, it comes down to me like, I don't know what Swarovski's doing or thinking in this regard, but if they're thinking, hey, we get to cut down the line, I'm like, no, make it more. Yeah. Give us more choices so that we have more, like the golfers want more club, faces and pitches and, whatever. I don't care. I just want more choice. So I want to be more exacting with whatever purpose, that we're whatever job you're doing or whatever you're glassing that day. I want the ability to take stuff out and do that. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I'm just excited about it. My reaction, Brady, was just that. It was pretty awesome. And I don't know if everybody's seen it, but there's a cradle on the bottom of it, kind of like it looks like a shell, but it's, you see him hand holding it in the
if you go on their website and their ads are hand holding it.
And what that's meant to do is it's meant to either be laid on a pack or into a sandbag or whatever, and you're still able to turn the focus wheel without having it like lift off or move.
Yep.
So, I don't know. Have you ever seen like the old pictures from the old like Alaska days when the cowboys, or the guides are laying their spotting scope in the crease of their hat?
Oh yeah.
Well, that's what this was made to do. The only difference is that they've, this is world-class glass and they've thought about those things. It's a pretty cool concept. The other thing that's noticeable about it is that there's no foot anymore.
Yeah, they've kind of got rid of that.
So it's actually up into the body and it worked out real good with the plate system, and so I was pretty happy with it.
And it's really neat too. So anyone who has any sort of digiscoping systems too, like it'll still fit on.
Well, that was
the eyepiece is the same.
Yeah, that was the best part is that the ATX, STX eyepieces that you're familiar with, the modulars, it's the same eyepiece. I took my digiscoping gear that I've used, on all my gear and slapped it right on there, and it worked perfectly. Not one bit of difference.
No.
So. I'm elated about it. It's already doing great in the shop. I know Swarovski's getting ready to kick them out here in the next, I don't even know what the date is, 21st, and I know that they're still. So everybody hears this. I don't know when this is going to exactly air, but they're still saying October 1st, and so we're going forward with that, and we're still pre-sailing. So. It's a good thing.
It's exciting times to be looking to purchase optics.
Yeah, we've just never had this much choice.
Yeah, it all comes down to choice.
And I guess that's why I have fun doing my job, because I get questions, and I'm like, I get to work and sometimes walk through some of this, and some guys come out with really outstanding questions, and I'm like, whoa, I got to think about that for a minute. Like, what's going to help this guy the best? And I just try to lay it out like, okay, let's think about this sensibly and then figure out if that works for him or not.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about these two optics you have sitting here.
Yeah.
Well, and in general, too, we just, like you said, like we are now carrying Kowa.
We are now Kowa. And look, some people call it Kowa.
Yep.
And it really makes me reach out and ask for certain what they want to be called.
Yeah. It's like we were saying off air. It's kind of like the Coues deer, cows deer.
Coues deer, cows deer thing. And look, I'm from Arizona. I've been hunting Coues deer a long time, and you can tell by the way I say it. I don't know. I just can't. It's just hard to say cows deer. I know I don't want to be disrespectful to Sir Elliott, cows, but it's just Coues deer. It just kind of separates them from the, from the groups, I guess. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so Kowa, I've always called them Kowa. I've never been corrected. I don't think anybody's ever corrected me.
Yeah.
They are now live on the site. We are carrying pretty much the full line of Kowa spotting scopes, and Highlanders. And if nobody's familiar with the Highlander series, it is honestly, it's for stargazing. And they're angled, and they're a twin spotter, and they're built in its own body. It's about 13 pounds.
So you're saying if there's mule deer on the moon right now, I'll be able to find them?
Pretty part near. They're 32 by they're a 32 by 82 FL glass, and they really are quite amazing. Individual focus eyepieces meant to be used on a super high or a heavy tripod.
Yep.
Ultra long glassing. I can't say a bad thing about them because I've used them extensively. Enjoy them, beyond all get out. It's a $5,000 purchase, so it's an investment. Mm-hmm. But for guys that want stability, and when I say stability, there's a lot of people that want to lighten things up, but that is made to put on a heavy tripod with a head that will work with that weight. Manfrotto 502, Suray VH10, Manfrotto 500. Those will work. And I got to be honest with you, it's when you sit down and you stay low on the tripod and you embed yourself into the side of a mountain, it's a really pleasurable experience because you don't have a lot of vibration and a lot of movement, and you can just see detail. And it's really where I learned about long distance glassing.
Yeah, and that's like basically extreme long distance glassing.
Yeah.
You could basically sit there instead of dropping all your eggs in one basin. You can sit there and glass from a super far distance away and kind of pick up animals really far away.
I mean, it does. It just shows you that when you look at things far away, we've always kind of said you may not be glassing for today, but you're glassing, for tomorrow's hunt or whatever you're doing. And it really is that. And those Kowas, man, the Highlanders, I will always have a place in my heart for those. But if you think you're just going to walk around and carry with them, I mean, I literally know guys that backpack with them, and I know that's extreme and crazy, but I know guys that have done it, and it's not for everybody. But there are guys that have done it, and they take them in and they sit on high, mountain points, and they can see for ridiculous distances, and those guys have done and been very successful with that. My thing is when you have a 13-pound optic, you got to have a 5, 6, 7-pound, tripod to balance it and subdue it. I like it, out of the truck and within a reasonable distance anyway. But, that was, you had the Dr. Optics back in the day, and, the 30 by 80s and the 40 by 80s super wide angle. You have all these different stuff out there, and the Kowas were always looked at as like, hey, those are as good as it gets, and they were. Yeah. They still are.
Yep. I looked through those a couple of years ago looking for deer, and I was blown away with what you could see with them. And again, I had a heavy tripod. I was starting to glass for a while, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I got a deer. Guys are like, where's it at? And I pulled my head out of them, and I realized I was glassing 4 miles away. I was like, oof, wait. I need to glass a little bit closer.
Their application, is literally for stargazing or looking at the moon or what have you. But they also became really popular at long range shoots.
Oh yeah.
And the spotters and the guys that were sitting behind, and really they had a military application because the guys that were sitting behind snipers in sniper school, were calling wind and doing stuff or observing or whatever, and they realized that they were, these big giant binoculars is what they were using. And just because when you're looking at stuff 1,000 yards, the whole reason behind the both eyes open is it's no different than just both eyes open with binoculars. When both eyes open are functioning together, you see better and you more efficiently with more detail.
Yeah, it'd be like trying to walk around with one eye closed the whole time, trying to walk through a mountain range. It's going to be a little bit more difficult.
100%.
Open both those eyes up, you can see more detail, you can see things, and it just makes sense.
Those are I think technically, those are still Poroprism by design, and Poroprism moves light really, really easily and or at least more efficiently than roof prism glass, and so there's some lessons to be learned there. But again, just an amazing piece of glass. Happy to have them on board. We still get calls for that stuff every once in a while, and so I was just really happy to get with Paul at Kowa and get them on board, and we're just excited about it. But they've got right here you see this is the 99 millimeter, just an unbelievable piece of glass. Certainly ranks up in the highest of the high of all glass quality, digiscoping pictures, everything. There is no doubt in my mind that it belongs in that conversation. The difference is it's got a $4,000 price tag.
Yeah.
And so you might be paying, $500, $600, $700, $800 more than that with some of the other brands.
Do you think a lot of hunters don't realize that Kowa's out there?
I think a lot of people have no idea.
No idea, yeah.
This is a brand that they're Japanese made, limited lifetime warranties. I've seen them do amazing things with their warranties. They're straightforward. There's not a lot of guesswork. They take care of things in quick time, but they've been around for a number of years. I'm not even sure the first time I ever heard the word Kowa. I mean, I don't know, 20 years ago, 25 years, whatever it was. But they've been around, for a very long time.
Has it just been like a marketing thing, maybe, or just the other companies have kind of dominated the hunting game? And
I think so. And being from Arizona, we were always looking for different glass and in that niche, and so I think I don't know if Arizona found out about it earlier, but
you guys are kind of the epicenter of glassing.
Because a lot of that stuff was born there. It was born in the mountains of southern Arizona and glassing for Coues deer. That's where it all came from.
Yep.
And those those guys were pioneers and doing stuff that I talk about it, but seeing Dwayne Adams sitting perched up on a rock face with just a crappy old tripod.
Yeah.
And instead of, back in the day, they were probably $1,500 to $1,800, but that, those were in the later 80s and people were doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And that just was not, if you think about it, like the people that call us from the West or from the East today, because they're going out West to hunt, they have just a completely different idea of what they need to come out here and be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, this whole evolution of how all this started is just really cool and quite fascinating to me. But Kowa, really, where they gain popularity is on the birding sites. In the birding industry.
Birding community, really.
And people just don't realize how big the birding industry is.
Yeah, people don't know. It probably dwarfs the sales for
first
hunting.
of all, where I really started noticing difference of where Kowa started to show up is when the birding industry people would start doing tests. Kowa was, at a very long time ago, was dipping into the highest categories.
Yeah. So
you may have Zeiss, Swarovski, Leica, and then you'd have this Kowa, and then sometimes people would even grade. So there was always this thing I kept watching, and they just did an incredible job that way. And I think they're out of Torrance, California, and that's where where their U.S. base is anyway. And I don't know that it's marketing, and I don't know that it's not like they were trying to keep it a secret. I just think that it's just one of those companies that just kind of has stayed true, and they do what they do, and they try to do that very well. At first glance, they're good looking units.
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now.
We've just got a couple of them, but for the audience that's certainly looking, you got a 99. There's an 88. There's a 77, a 64, and then in the 550.
I'm going to check out this 550 here in hand while we're talking.
It's so the thing that when you're looking at Kowas, you'll notice that there's a 553 or a 554.
Yep.
So the odd number is always the angled. So 53
would be the angled.
And then 54 would be the straight. And so like the 99S is the straight for the 99, and then it would be 99A for angled. So that's that one. But these are all 553, 554s, and then there's a 663 and a 664, a 773 and a 774, and then an 883 and an 884. So that's the difference in why the difference in numbers. So the 99 comes as its own kit. But there are different eyepieces that become available for some of the different units.
Okay.
And one of the ones that we carry, or will be, when we have them now, are the 30 power eyepieces, because a lot of people like to use the fixed power and mate the 664s together.
Oh, yep. So
that's a whole nother discussion, and we can get into that another day. But yeah, a lot of people like to use those and put the 30 power eyepieces on there, so that's pretty popular. But yeah, it's so when we're talking about these, you have the 99 that are they're pure fluorite glass, okay, And then when you get into like the 883s, you're still in fluorite glass. And then the 777s will be their XD lenses. And the 664s will be their XD lenses. And then that's what made the 553 and the 554 so unique. And that's why you have a higher price point on it is $17.99 for that. And most people are like, I'm not paying that for a spot or for a compact. Yeah. But there are a ton of people that pay that for that compact, and they're getting an incredibly good value with a really great piece of glass at a really good, weight to use ratio is what I like to call it. But
so you're saying the fluorites are their like higher end glass?
That is their highest end glass.
Highest end glass, yeah. Okay.
So, and that was really for this. Kowa really was the first one to say, "Oh, we're going to take our FL glass and put it in the compact."
Mm-hmm. And by the way, so obviously people are listening to this, can't tell, but I'm holding it right now in my hand for people watching on YouTube. And this thing's got to weigh less than 2 pounds. This thing is tiny.
And I apologize. I didn't bring all the
specs are always hard to remember too, but
it's but yeah, they're lightweight, and most people would notice that they're not fully rubber armored.
Mm-hmm.
Most people think I'm crazy when I say that. I will use a sock on that, or I will use like a neoprene case, I'm wearing marsupial today, but like I would rather have a sleeve for it because I don't want anything on my optics when I'm glassing.
Yeah. We've always talked about that.
That's just me. I'm obsessed with that, and I just try to make it clean. And I like being able to take the padding off, and that's where I put my lens caps in my phone and or whatever I'm doing. I have it's kind of set up, ready to go.
Yep.
That's how I do it. But
let's explain the reasoning behind that too.
You mean
why you don't like anything on the optic?
Oh, so in other words, if you like this cap comes off and you can set it down, right?
Yep.
So there are some caps that come off and they would hang off of this. Well, when the wind is beating it around, you can feel that vibration in your picture. Well, if you're digiscoping or you're just trying to see for yourself, I don't care. I love the macro micro focus system, but that's all null and void if you've got optics that are vibrating.
So basically, anything you're attaching to a spotter that can catch wind, it will catch wind, and then it basically is going to act as a sail. You might not notice it up close, but you're starting to glass really far away or any sort of detail.
The longer you go, the longer you're glassing, the worse that it has an effect on.
Or you're mounting this on there and doing some digiscope, and
it's exponentially worse.
You're going to see some little movement on there because that's going to catch that wind, and it's going to impact what you're looking at.
100%.
Yeah, that's why you and I are both the same. We always take all the caps off, all the sleeves, whatever it may be, and take that off.
I think that's one thing to note about these is that there's a very large portion of people looking for spotting scopes that really appreciate the big adjustment dial for your basic getting it in focus, and then you reach up to the
it's like a coarse and a fine.
Exactly, 100%, and it's just geared differently, and it really, really helps.
And it's in a really good spot too. Like I can easily just reach this with my pointer finger and just adjust it very, very slightly. It's in a really good spot. I noticed that right away when I picked it up.
Yeah, so they're just phenomenal little pieces of gear, and they've a lot of people again would frown upon that being not armored, and I either use a wool sock or use a marsupial or use something that is of padding, and I think you'll understand exactly why. But it just is what it is.
Yeah.
So, but again, just fantastic pieces of gear. Super excited to bring them on. And we got a bunch of content coming over that, and but I think people would be really surprised on how they perform if they just give them a chance. And they're more expensive than your mid-grade pieces, but they give people those options. That they can get into that $1,500, and they can go up if they want to do, and it's a pretty interesting company, and I'm just happy that GOHUNT's going to be part of the helping kind of bring them along.
Yeah, that's why
I've actually physically been selling them since 2010. You know, and obviously my time here, there's kind of been this really cool resurgence of glass and certain things, and so this is one of those reasons.
That's what I like about you, and you really are passionate about optics. Obviously, that's why we call you the glassing guru.
It's so hard to explain to people how much you love doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I just would rather be out glassing, finding stuff than not. I'm going to go back out and help, this weekend with that early rifle tag. And I mean, I've been out, a couple times this year. I get out, and now all I can think about is checking my gear, cleaning my lens, make sure everything's good. And I just want to be out there looking for game.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to do that this weekend.
What else you got planned this fall, Cody?
I didn't draw any tags. My kids, my wife, nobody drew tags. So
who's out helping?
there's a couple things going on in in December tags that a couple people have that'll help with, and then this early rifle tag that has been going on. I was gonna go out last weekend with Campos, but Campos, he's such a dog and killed early.
I know, what a guy!
Yeah.
Just goes in there.
He was so excited that
yeah.
he called that bull. I mean, he was elated about that whole experience.
Yeah, did he call you on the drive home?
Called me on the drive home. I think the breath was still coming out of the bull when he texted
he already
me.
texted you.
Oh, he was beyond.
Yeah.
He was beyond excited. So and that's what it's all about. So, I really wanted to be there for him, but I was at a wedding in California. So.
Yeah. So when it comes to spotting scopes, before we close out here, what obviously people can call you, right?
Yeah.
And if they would you rather have them do a little bit of research ahead of time, or say I could call you up, say I'm from somewhere on the East Coast, be like, hey Cody, I'm looking at a spotting scope. I don't know nothing about it. You'll break down pretty much whatever they want to know if they just call you. They don't have to say like, oh, I'm already looking at this brand or this size. And you'll kind of just walk them through you ask them probably certain questions, like what's their use case.
I think they should do whatever's
comfortable for them.
If they feel like they want to take a look around, please take a look around. Know some products that you're familiar with or that interest you.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I would say is, if you're going to call, just really kind of understand how it is you want to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe understand how it is you're going to hunt, where you're going to go visit, or I think that's really that's really what people need to do is pay attention to what they're about to embark upon. What are they getting into?
Yeah. Especially do they need a spotting scope at this time in their career? Like, would you say everyone needs a spotting scope, or is it something you could just add later, or is it going to help you? Maybe
look,
on your first time?
As the guy who's been, yes, I think everybody needs a spotting scope, but I would rather have a guy, and if he calls me and let's just say he's got like a pair of 8x32, or let's say they're compacts or something, and he's going to come out west. At the very least, like, hey, let's help you get those on a tripod so that you can, create a better distance and feel, you've got something to work with that'll help you extend this isn't just always about making money, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about helping somebody get outdoors.
Yep, you're helping to make their life better, pursue greater adventures.
That if a guy says he has this and he can't afford anything else and he just wants to do better with that, then let's help him do that.
Mm-hmm.
But if a guy says that he's willing to spend or do, like, I got a couple texts this morning that were like, hey, I got like $1,000, like, where's the best? Do I get like do I get a lesser bino and a lesser spotter and have two? Or, I would say I would buy the best binocular you can, buy a good tripod and a way to mount them, and you're good. I would rather do that than split the difference. Yep. I think you're way more valuable with the binos.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm just one guy with an opinion on how those things should go, and I just think that people would be a lot I think their money would be better spent if they bought a really good binocular, learned to put that on a tripod, and really learned to glass. Mm-hmm. I think they'd figure out real quick that it was a really, really, good use of their money.
Yeah. What's your opinion on carrying spotting scopes in a backpack? Do you always want to have some sort of sleeve like a marsupial, or do you feel comfortable like taking the spotter on the table right now, maybe putting it in your backpack, putting some clothes around it? Or do you feel like since you are spending some money, you should try to protect this? Or even those guys who put the tripod on the outside of their backpack and have that spotter always attached right there and they're hiking around.
I got to
What do you frown on any of that stuff?
Personally, that's never going to happen with me.
You always try to put it in your backpack.
It will always be in my backpack.
So even if you're maybe say you're moving only 500 yards, you would probably take that spotter off that tripod and put it
typically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it's that short a walk, I might even just have it in my own hand. But the accidents and the things that when you've stood on the counter and helped people for so many years, I would just take it off, put it in your pack for 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's okay. You're not going to miss anything. Now there are guys that they might sling it over the shoulder and set it up, boom, stand and look, but and I'm sure that works too. But I've also helped those guys replace optics too.
It's always scared me because I was the guy back in the day too who I would move glassing spots or whatever, or just carry that tripod, throw that spotter, rest it on my shoulder as I'm hiking or whatever. But it just makes me nervous in my head that if when I throw that on my shoulder, did I accidentally loosen that plate or the head that's holding the plate, and all of a sudden that spotter's going to fall off and smash the ground.
The interesting thing is that so I've had people tell me, "Oh, well, I put it on my backpack, and the tripod is compacted.
Yep.
The spotter is visible and on the outside, and I'm just going to be honest with you. If you're going on a 20-mile backpack hike or whatever it is you're doing." I don't care and you're relying on that piece of gear. I am not. Because what if you fall? What if you
exactly?
Like I would just rather take those things and put them somewhere where they're a little bit more patterned and just not so exposed. Mm-hmm. So if maybe you want to carry them that way when you've made camp and lightened up and you want to be quick. I understand. I get it. Everybody's, and this is why
they can kind of do what they want to do.
They can kind of do what they want to do. I'm just saying, I've replaced a lot of stuff that way for guys.
Yeah. I'm the guy who now has to put it in my backpack.
I know one guy that's literally replaced 2 sets of binos because he did the same thing twice, and those binos have never been found.
No.
So I don't care whether it's spotting scope, binos, whatever, I mean, I've been driving through a unit and you blow by somebody on a quad or something, and to see a $2,000 pair of 15s, like on the tripod, and then just bouncing, and you're just like, and they're just eating dust.
Yeah, I've seen guys do that with spotting scopes. How they leave them attached to their backpack, put the backpack on the front of their quad, and it's strapped in, but they're just driving. That's just bouncing, and then it eventually moves over, starts hitting that rail, starts banging on the ATV rack.
None of it's good.
Yeah.
So I would just say that, look, whether it's a neoprene sleeve, whether it's I always bring up a winter sock because of their. I like that idea because first of all, you can always pair it with another one. Yep. If you ever had to have an extra pair of socks or make a pair of mittens or I don't care whatever you got to do out of it, you can do it. You always talk about the gym jockey mittens or whatever.
Yeah, the OGs.
You could always make a pair of mittens that way.
Yeah. And so what Cody's talking about is basically taking a wool sock and then cutting the toe side of it.
Well, that's if you were doing mitten sides, but I'm saying. Like on this little spotter right here.
Oh, you don't even need to.
I would take a thick Thorlo or I don't care. Name the brand made, but or the make, and I would just literally
slide it over, and then when you need a glass, you pull it off. Yeah, you can do that
you've
too.
always got one. And by the way, those socks are typically synthetic.
Yeah,
they're water phobic. They're padded, and they're warm if you need an extra pair of socks or hands or I mean, who knows what happens, but I think Trail uses that.
Yep, Trail does it. I think Trail actually has his cut. I think his is cut at the end. That's why I mentioned the cut.
I think Trail had his cut so that the foot goes through there.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, I think that's the foot part.
And he may have the other end opened up.
Yeah, there's plenty of ways to do it, whatever you need to use it for.
There's always a different way to do it, and so there's neoprene sleeves out there. Some of the manufacturers, they come with it. Mm-hmm. I'm just the person that likes to take them out of whatever they're in to make them as least air gripping or aerodynamic as possible, so that it reduces the amount of vibration. Because that's really, really what it comes down to for me. And anybody that glasses at the ridiculous distances we do sometimes knows that the quieter you can keep your optics, the better it is for you. Mm-hmm. And it could mean the difference of seeing or not seeing.
Yep.
So I think there's a lot, that goes into that. And again, I'm a big marsupial, proponent. I like the way that Jim puts those together.
Yeah, me too.
I love the webbing on the outside. I love the handle. The handle for me, because normally when I pull everything out of my truck and go put it back in there, I just like to be able to grab my gear bag, and I know that I've got that case in my hand and it's not going anywhere. They're super secure in those. And again, the biggest reason is because when I take my spotting scope or binos out of whatever case they're in, that case gets sat right next to me with, it could have my phone, it could have my radio, it could have whatever, what I want set out that I want at my disposal immediately, right there. And I've always used it. I have forgotten a glassine pad.
Oh, that's the worst.
And so at least I had, Jim's case, for my behind to sit on. So sorry, Jim, but it doubled up real nice that day. Yep. So, and that's just, the thing is just, you're always kind of thinking and using things in multiple ways, right?
Yep. Do you have any, you might know the answer to this, but just for people listening, travel tips for going with a spotter? Like if I'm going to go fly in an airplane, do you ever take the eyepiece off and put both caps on, or do you keep it in like a marsupial case the whole time? Do you want to fly that in your backpack on you? Like, what's the best way maybe to travel? Or do you just travel like people watching, like this would stay together and you wouldn't take the eyepiece off?
Well, first of all, I've heard, seen, or done it always. Mm-hmm. I know that there's a large group of people that would like to have a big old Pelican case cut with the sleeve.
Yeah.
But I look at those as, typically speaking, they're pretty inefficient at doing it. Like the Kowas, you almost have to have in a big case like that. But when you're talking about spotters like this, okay, the Swarovski modular system, I have no problems breaking those apart, put the caps on them, and putting them in places where they fit, and I know they're secure and they're going to be. I just try to make them the middle. Mm-hmm. So whatever's on the outside, I try to make them the middle so that they're not taking the brunt of stuff. So that's what I try to do with them. I would tell you that most of the time in my pack, I would pretty much tell you that they're always secured in a marsupial case, and then I just try to put them in a spot that they're not on the outside.
Yeah, that's what I've made a mistake before doing some of these like filmed hunts when we have camera guy, we have myself, Neville, Trail, whoever it may be. We have so much gear in our truck. I eventually, pack all my gear in my truck, and I try to take my optics and put them somewhere where I know where they're at. It usually ends up being on top of something, right? But then it's gonna be on top next to a door.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's like one of those things you never want to have it on top next to a door because everything's going to be moving around, driving on a gravel road. You open that door, what's the first thing that's going to fall out? Your spotting scope. I've had that happen before where I've caught a spotting scope it wasn't a padded case, but still just like messes with my mind. I don't want that thing to fall and hit, even though I might only hit a foot on the lower part of the door or whatever, but know where you're putting your spot. That's why now a lot of times when I'm driving, I take my spotter and I put it in the front seat of my truck, in between, right next to my gas pedal, basically, that little area right in between the driver and the passenger. Rest it right there, so I know it can't go anywhere. It's not going to fall off anything. It can't roll around. Not going to fall on anything. So it's just I try to baby my spotting scope as much as I can because I know it's such an expensive piece of gear. The number of times
that I've had to repair an optic because it somehow got close to the door, and when they opened it came flying out.
Yeah.
So yeah, that happens a lot. But I would just tell people to be methodical about it and just think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I always, again, just make the optic the middle.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the only way that I can tell you. I mean, if you take one of your bags and you know that bag is the bottom, and you run your eyepiece all the way down to the bottom, and that's kind of the corner of your deal.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, somehow, some way, that's going to get affected one day.
Yep.
So there's been a lot of optics replaced over the years, or had, full-blown new lenses put in because of that.
I would hate to have that happen on a hunt. Oh my gosh.
Well, I just always laugh about, they pack their pack, and that's the guy. I don't know if you've ever been around this, but you ever see a guy just unload his pack and just drop it?
Oh yeah. It's so heavy, you're just gonna let it drop, and that's probably where your spotter's sitting on the inside of your backpack.
That's just not happening.
I always cringe too when I see people sitting on their backpack when I know they probably have some expensive toys inside in their backpack, and they just use it as a seat. It's like, do you realize there's some gear in there? It might be a stove, might be anything that you're just bending right now.
Well, yeah, there's always those things you're like, well, what if that guy really, I don't know. There's just certain things I've seen over the years when you see it happen and you go, there's only one way for that to happen like that.
Yeah.
It's called pressure.
Yep.
And it's either velocity and pressure or just sustained pressure.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So, I would just tell people, put them in the middle, cover them up best you can, use the eye cups that are provided. Those are, generally speaking, just golden rule, kind of take care of it.
Yeah.
A little bit of prevention is goes a long way.
Mm-hmm. I always think too, some people I think overlook it, but maybe it's just me because I deal with camera lenses a lot too. But even on the modular systems when you're changing lenses back and forth or changing objective on the other side, even the way you open up said spotter to put an eyepiece on or change an objective, that all matters too. Don't be pointing that sucker in the wind. Don't be aiming that thing up in the air so it can collect a bunch of dust. Be mindful when you're opening up any sort of optic, put an extra jacket or open up upside down so anything will fall out. The dust-wise, it's not going to attract dust in the middle. And just be careful when you pull up these spotting scopes and take them apart.
So on the modular series or any of these, when they have the little caps for the interior lens, I think those are the most important caps ever.
Yeah.
Don't lose those caps. I try to have extras when I can.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you have to break yours apart to carry or travel or whatever, call somebody and ask if you can get extras.
Yeah.
Because I just, if those are gone, it's hard to protect those places.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would do. But yeah, spotting scopes, Brady, they're a really important piece of gear, but I look at them as a tool that needs to be used for certain things at certain times.
Yeah.
And there's, the straight versus angled argument. Everybody's got a way to do it.
No, the angle's the only right way.
Well, I'm a target acquisition quick guy, and I want it right now.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not here to tell you, I say it all the time. If you are on the desert floor looking up at the top of the mountain, an angled is more comfortable to look through.
Yeah.
But if you want to acquire that target most quickly without having to move your tripod around, I feel that I use straights more often.
Mm-hmm.
But, you may be a guy that sits on the top of the mountain and wants to turn for people that don't know what I'm saying is that normally you'd be like this, but you can turn this, and this one's harder, which, by the way, we have the ASIAC piece that's new that's going to be on here that allows you to turn this. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Oh, but Cody, geez.
Yeah, buddy, a little nugget right there.
Dropping knowledge bombs on
Yeah, so ASIAC, Rydell made a piece for this that allows you to turn this. So, and it just basically, it doesn't replace this,
Yep.
but it sits on the side and allows you to turn this into itself. But yeah, so if you were sitting there and you were trying to look downhill, or instead of, when you get to a point, the angle becomes too great. And so you could literally just do like this and look into it. So there's different ways. So like on the downhill, I think the straights typically work better. Some guys would say that sitting in a truck, they like a straight, depending on, where, I don't know. Some guys are so methodical about it, they do that. But, some guys like the angled when they're sitting in a truck. So again, use whatever works for you. But think about it. And for me, general deer, elk out spotting, sitting on the ground, low, I just prefer the straight so that I can remove my binos and put my spotting scope on and be looking right where I need to be looking.
That is the biggest benefit. Or to me, it's like because I'm such a tall guy, so if I ever need to stand up in glass, my tripod can be a little bit shorter, just by a little bit. Even I'm sitting down glassing, it can be a little bit shorter, so I get a little less wind dealing with. And I will always turn the bell back and forth.
How tall are you?
6'5".
Okay, I'm 5'6". So, any tripod basically, I can stand up and look through pretty easily with a straight. So
it's one of those arguments. I don't think you'll never have a clear answer with people. It's like the Chevy versus Ford thing. It's like there's so many different preferences and how you use the tool and how what you're hunting all the time. And if you're just, like you said, target acquisition, if that's the biggest thing for you, straight's going to be great because you can pop those binos off, put that straight spotter on.
I just know that like for coos deer hunting for me, and that seems to be when it's most prevalent, when you find a buck and you think to yourself, man, that looked pretty good, but I need to know like right now because he's going into some thicker stuff. I can jump on that and find that target again really, really quick with way less effort.
And I think back in the day too, it's not too much of an issue now since most people all digiscope with their cell phones. But I think back in the day too, it was a little bit better to digiscope off an angled because it puts that weight a little more centered instead of like hanging down on a thing. Like we had those big, cameras back in the day and those big mounts we used to use digiscoping. Remember those? Like all these different wheels on it and things you could adjust.
When I was digiscoping that bull this weekend, okay, I just happened to be like in an odd spot and I try not to stand up, but the way that it all came together, I found him from one ridge and I moved. And literally, I got in the truck. I mean, I found him at such a far distance. I got in the truck and was able to get and break the distance down really, really close. And, that 400 or 500 yard mark, which, first of all, is so lucky. It's not even funny, but it just happened that way. And knowing the terrain, and I just looked at the map and went, oh, I can go right there. So I raced down there, got to where I was going, and I just happened to I had him in the BTX and I found I thought no way would I find the bull that quick. And I found him in 3 seconds. They hadn't moved. And I was with the BTX. Well, now I'm stuck because I'm thinking in my mind that, man, the sun is up. It's getting hot. I can see the cows out there roasting in the sun. And in any minute, this bull's going to, hair him up and he's going to be gone. Yep. Right? So I did. I hadn't digiscoped with this particular setup with the 115 while, so I broke the 15 off, threw my STX on, popped it right in there, and we were good to go. And literally, I was like, I didn't have to move anything. I was just like, oh, yeah, perfect. But I had to work on the angle a little bit, and I mean, it was perfect. I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
So. I was stuck in a little bit of a precarious position because I had the BTX and I was looking down, but I didn't move the tripod up because if you think about it, the BTX was angled and I kept it straight. So when I broke that off and I put the straight on, I still didn't have to move it.
Yeah. For that
so
case,
I was like,
really
okay,
well.
so that worked out pretty luckily.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I ended up getting quite a bit of footage off that, and I don't know why, I just got lucky that day.
Okay. Let's talk about one thing I don't think people realize too about spotting scopes is the lens shade.
Oh yeah, that's
the lens shade. When would you use that, and when would you not use that? And what's the purpose
when
of
you're
that?
Anything you can do to keep the sun out of the if you've got angles where the sun's coming in, this just takes it and doesn't put direct sunlight on the lens.
Yep. So people are listening. You're just pulling out the lens shade at the end.
That's all we're doing.
Yep. And almost all spotting scopes have them nowadays, a lens shade.
Yeah, no, it works out perfectly. I typically look into the sun, fairly often. I guess in the early morning sometimes, but I normally have the sun at my back in the mornings. But it is not uncommon for me to look into the sun, in the afternoons.
Yep.
There's been a lot of good animals found that way, and just the shade and everything that works out that way. But I've had to pull those out on often, and they're lifesavers.
Yep.
Sometimes go out and stand out
with
in front
the hat.
of you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've had to do that with my dad sometimes before I walk in front. I'm just like sticking the hat out there.
But anytime you could, if you don't want to use these, but anytime you could, find a tree that you can get far enough back on that you got shade that you can still get the angle if you want to see what you're looking at. I will go to great lengths to shade that eyepiece from getting direct sunlight.
Being in Arizona, have you ever used umbrellas and all that stuff? I see those guys using over there. Like different things to like put shade above you when you're glassing.
To be perfectly honest with you, I have used an umbrella that was handheld. Those can be pretty advantageous. And look, I will tell you that I know there's certain guys that do that, and I'm not bagging on it because there's products out there and there's good people putting good stuff out there. It's not for me.
Just more to deal with.
Well, first of all, I don't care what you put on your tripod. If you're putting an umbrella, which may save you from the sun, if there's even the remote little tiny bit of breeze, it's going to affect your optics. Not going down that road.
And for me, it always goes against to my thought of I want to be hidden when I'm glassing and don't want to have any sort of sail an animal can see something moving, or that's going to be above on my the skyline me basically, and they could see something.
I just think of the things, the nightmare of, well, I just got up to go to the bathroom and literally Mary Poppined my, my BTX into the next county because a wind came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
No way. Not going to happen. Not doing it. I'm not rolling that way. And I'm sorry, but that's you brought up a subject with me. Yep. I have been sunburned to the nth degree, and maybe that's stupid, maybe that's not bright, but I will put something on the side of my head. I normally have handkerchiefs with me. I normally even today's hoodies. There's a lot of different ways to do that now that I do not intend ever on using an umbrella for that.
Another thing you mentioned too, which is another thing it makes me cringe, and I see people do this, and I have walked over and grabbed other people's spotters before and remove them off tripods. When they have a spotter on a tripod and they leave to go to the bathroom, go to their backpack, I don't want to leave my spotter attached. I don't care how solid, how heavy your tripod is. That's something I do not want to fall and land on the objective lens, land anywhere.
If you walk away from your...
I don't care if it's binaural
I have distinctly seen this on 3 or 4 different occasions where a guy walked away, whether he was standing or even sitting, where I have literally seen a tripod be picked up and pretty much slammed.
Yeah. It's a good way to need a warranty repair.
I think you're just asking for it.
Yeah.
If you're going to walk away, just pick the whole thing up, just lay it down, or at the very least, widen your legs out as far as they can be, laid out, and mash the center of gravity down to as small as you can do.
Yep.
But yeah, so I mean, yeah, there's
our optics are too expensive to
I'm just not going to risk that.
It's not worth it. Not worth it at all.
I mean, I'm out testing gear all the time, and I don't want to. I mean, I'm responsible for that stuff. It's not free.
Yep. I can't remember if we touched on this in the last podcast I had you on, because that was a while ago now, even though we just released it. But what about the old pirate patch over the eye?
Well,
what are your thoughts on that?
I think that if you need it, I think you need to do it. I think whatever helps you relax. Mm-hmm. If you have to wear a patch, do it. It costs you like $1.50 at Walgreens or CVS or whatever. Yep. Do it, absolutely.
Because that way, then you're not going to be squinting the whole time. You're not going to get that eye fatigue. So if you are the person who wants to glass longer with the spotting scope, having an eye patch, like we're talking about the old pirate patch type thing, could benefit you. Obviously, we've all done the whole hat, leaning it over, and different things. I've even had my hand up against there, blocking the eye, so I can keep my eye open, so I can glass a little bit longer. I normally do. Like, I will take the hat and turn it, and block the sun out. Mm-hmm. But, I don't know. I guess I've been doing it so long now that my muscle is pretty much used to it, doing, squinting or whatever. But, I can close. Like, if you watch my wife, I love her to death. She can kill me for saying this. But she literally has a hard time closing her eye without, like, squeezing her cheek and all the muscles together, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and I don't know, I laugh at this and call me romantic or whatever, but I love the fact, because when she blinks at me, I get both blinks. I get both eyes. So I love that. But there are people that have trouble with that muscle in their face. Yeah. And I think that the patch is a perfect reason to do that. Mm-hmm. So, why not do it? Who cares how you look when you're out hunting? As long as it makes you more successful.
But that's the thing is like, this will be interesting to people. I know that people are going to laugh, and I can't remember what the name of that. My kids, one of the eye patches that I use for them, because they're all left eye dominant, they're left eye dominant, but the guns are all right-handed. Oh yeah. So it's all backwards, because I'm left-handed but right eye dominant. They're right-handed and left eye dominant. So I have them wear a patch when they're shooting, right-handed guns, and it works out really well. But I found this patch that was part of a costume.
Oh my gosh.
And how the patches from CVS or whatever, they're kind of hard. Yeah. This is a soft patch. So it's not like it's pressing on you. It just lays there. And I'm going to be honest with you, that's the best patch I wish I knew where that came from.
Well, Halloween's coming up. Well, so if you guys are out looking for costumes right now, try to find some pirate patches. You'll notice what they are, because they're almost quilted. Huh. And I know somebody's going, I can make that. Yeah. But there's a business idea.
It was just a super easy little package, or the piece that my kids, when I would put the one eyepiece, they'd be like, God, Dad, that kind of bothers me. I'm like, we'll try this one. Yeah. And as stupid as it sounds, I'm just telling you, it worked.
Okay, I'm going to go out and over-engineer a patch and create one.
Yeah, it's patches. I would use them 100% if that's what helps you.
One other thing too, I was curious about.
Just give your eyes time to, when you take them off and you go to look through the binos, just give your eyes a second. Let them focus. Close your eyes.
Oh yeah, otherwise you'll probably be.
Yeah, just open. Just take a moment. Mm-hmm. Rest them real quick.
Do you ever, when you're glassing for long, like obviously you said you only use it 15% of the time, but do you ever switch eyes with the spotting scope? Like go from your right eye to your left eye?
I have done that. I will tell you that was a long time ago. I would tell you that was when spotting scopes were not what they are today.
Yeah. The whole glassing to your head hurts and then you need to switch eyes.
Yes, and I will tell you that the lower the power, the better. There have been a few times that I got really good. And you talk about muscle memory. People used to give me a hard time about the straight, the straight versus the angled. Mm-hmm. So to be that person, I used an angle for an entire season, just to say, okay, I get it. I know what's good and what works for me. Because I was doing that so much, I was actually that year. I just remember being able to switch left and right, and thought it was, But I'm right eye dominant. And flat out, I see better with my right eye open, period. So it's merely interesting if I do it with my left.
And I've tried it before too, and that's because like we've touched on this in the last podcast too with you, like just that mental focus when you're out there glassing. Just like when I look through my left eye, I'm just doing myself a disservice. I'm not glassing as hard. I'll be honest with you. I can't pick up the details I can with my right eye. So I think I'm moving around too much. Like I'm just wasting my time. If my eyes are fatigued and I'm trying to use my spotter so much, I might as well just lean back for a couple seconds and just rest rather than trying to force a left, because I'm going to scan over something and not see it, where if I was fully focused on my right eye, I would probably pick up that little ear movement or whatever antler time when I'm trying to glass. So I don't think I'm right eye dominant. So I use my right eye all the time as like my main eye. So I don't know.
It all comes back to, you got to do what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
There really isn't a right and wrong. There's maybe efficient versus inefficient.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really, when you talk about a lot of the stuff that we're doing, these are things that have just been tried and true and learned over years. And I learn stuff new all the time. A guy will bring something up or do something, and you just go, wow, that was a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Never thought of it that way, but that was a pretty good idea. And these, again, these things, you're just trying to help people be more efficient.
Yeah.
And, there's nothing that comes down to better telling a guy, hey, look, I could talk to you for 4 more hours about the do's, don'ts, and whatnots.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom line is you need to go out and do it. You need to do it for, a day, a couple days, a weekend, and then come back and let's have this conversation. And 9 times out of 10, those conversations are very different, and they're appreciative, and they're also like, hey, I get why you said that. Like, now I understand. And it's hard sometimes to make somebody understand something without them actually having, glassed.
Yeah.
And glassed from a tripod. And once you've done that, and everybody knows that there's just things that happen that over time you're going to get better at it, and you're going to figure out ways to keep your optics stable.
Man, Cody, what a wealth of knowledge you are.
It's just a simple thing like glassing.
That's why I love talking to you. It makes me excited.
I mean, how fun is it that people ask me all the time, and I am so blessed to be doing and working for the company I work for, to be supported like that way, to where I get to go, and my job is to literally explain to people how to be successful at finding game.
Mm-hmm. Super cool.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I absolutely love what I do. My kids, they see the passion in me, and I think, I've done some different stuff for the last years, and it's just my favorite thing to explain to somebody that I'm trying to help you.
Do you ever go at night when you're sleeping, do you ever dream that you're glassing? Have glassing dreams?
That's funny that you say that. I've never dreamed about glassing.
Oh, I think you probably have. You just don't remember it.
I've dreamed about shooting.
Yeah.
But I've never dreamed. I don't know that I've dreamed about glassing. But I dream enough about glassing every day.
Through the whole day. Yes.
No, but like my kid, I don't know. They probably get tired of hearing me say, I don't know. There's my daughter. Where my office is, her room is right outside. She can mimic me doing insane, funny things, just certain sayings, and it's pretty funny. But I'm a better person when I've gone out and glassed for a day or a weekend, and and I've connected, and you've had those times to, you've had those times to. Like, I call it glass time, like driving, but it's glass time like when you're just quiet. You're just listening and watching nature and, do its thing. And I had bulls bugling behind me this weekend, and, bulls in front of me, and I'm looking at this giant bull over here. And, I was not thinking about work. I was not thinking about, I wasn't thinking about, I got to pay that bill, and, we got to, we're doing this yard work. And I just kind of zoned out for a day. And those days, how do you not like that?
Yeah.
My phone wasn't going off.
Yeah, that's what's really always intrigued me too about the whole Western hunting, and because everyone knows I grew up in Minnesota. Not a lot of long distance.
By the way, that was the videos and the stuff, and your dad shooting, and
oh yeah,
and I mean all of that was just, I was like, nah, because I'm not from Minnesota, but my mom's whole family is from Minnesota. My dad's whole family is from Minnesota, and I could just go back and I mean, those summers back there were my favorite.
Oh, I was blown away how green it is all the time. Like when we were back, that's what was really enjoyable. Like my dad and I, like you said, we did a bunch of shooting this last weekend. My brother got married, busted out his gun. We're diving into things, talking about how excited we are for the fall. But it's like, that's like we said, like glassing to me is really why I came out west in a way, because like it's so open. It's rewarding to sit there all day and just glass.
Oh,
like you're just saying, it's so peaceful. You realize certain things about yourself, and you're sitting there. You can have your thoughts to yourself. You're focused on the task at hand, and it's just relaxing. To be up on top of a mountain and glass. Like there's 1,000 different ways to kill an animal or find an animal, still hunting, whatever, tracking animals. But there's something to be said about glassing.
Yeah, I mean there's something so peaceful about it, and again, I don't like to. I don't know. I mean, I get all. It's just hard to explain to somebody who's never done it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go spend a morning, and there's a lot of people camping this weekend, and I mean, there was a place that I went, and what I thought was really ironic is that there was probably 20 people in this camp.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a group of bulls that was just going absolutely bonkers between us.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, and I could kind of see this camp, and there wasn't one person that I could see that like got up out of that camp. It was like, wow. And I'm thinking to myself, man, how lucky am I? I got to watch that group come up out of a bottom, move up through a saddle and across a road into a new little deal, and go literally right by a camp spot. And I was like, man, there wasn't anybody that even came out inside that just looked around and said, anybody see that?
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a full-blown beehive going around them. And I thought to myself, man, I got to see that this morning. And I'm looking at another group of bulls over here, and I got satellite bulls over here, and then you got the one guy you can hear from down the road that just blows up the generator.
Yeah.
And like, well, I guess he's not going to hear any of that. So it's just always interesting to see how people do different things in the outdoors. And again, I don't like to tell people how to spend their time but I'm all for music and all that stuff, but like I don't glass with AirPods or anything in my.
We were talking about that in the last podcast. Trying to be focused.
I just try to be. I just love to be in the moment and listen, and quite frankly, and I mean the last time I did that, I had in the exact same spot. By the way, the last time I was there, I had a bull literally almost walk over the top of me. So that doesn't happen very often, and. So yeah, so those are those moments, those are those times that we get to have fun.
Yep. One thing I noticed too, like we said, how enjoyable glassing is. I noticed this weekend, both at my brother's house and my parents' house, my mom and dad's house, like having old optics. Like I would walk around my dad's house. He has a window that overlooks the lake.
Right.
He has a pair of binos sitting right next to the window. And then I go into his like hunting room where we have all his mounts and stuff. There's another older pair of his binos sitting at a different window. So no matter where my dad is in this house,
he can look at something.
He look at something outside, and he's like, "Oh, did you see that loon this morning?" And I was like, "Yeah, I actually did. I picked up the binos that were downstairs, and I looked outside. He was looking at the binos upstairs."
That's awesome.
And then I go to my brother's house. My brother has an old pair of binos sitting at the backyard as well. Just whatever it might be, bird watching. You have a raccoon come in the backyard. You start picking up his binos, start using them. It's like they're not just for hunting.
So
you're enjoying nature as nature's meant to be enjoyed, as everyone knows. I always say.
I have over the last, I don't know, I can't tell you how many times I've done this, but so we get a lot of people that call and that they have decks, or they have, maybe they don't have a deck, but they got one window that looks at the ocean. And like at my brother's house, he has a specific spot where when you when you were on his walkout deck, he's probably 90 feet from the ocean or from the beach, and so he can see all the ships that are coming into port. In LA, so that Los Angeles, whatever that is, Long Beach or whatever it is, but he can see the big tankers out there. Well, over the years, we've gotten the opportunity to set. I mean, I was at that California wedding last weekend, and there was a guy there that was from Idaho, right? And he has a lake house. He must have hugged me 5 times, and I haven't seen the guy in years. Yeah. And he's like, "Hey, man," he's like, "I look through those binos and I think about you all the time. This is the coolest experience. I can see my kids when they're out on the boat. I can see the he's talking about all the Bert, and I'm like, he has no idea of the satisfaction I get from that. Even though he's a family friend, known him for years. But that's the exact reason. Mm-hmm. Like he spends a crazy amount of time looking through those binos. Yeah,
I know we're a hunting company and optics for hunting, but like you get so many multiple uses out of these optics.
He has 0 interest in hunting.
Oh, that's even cooler.
And then his neighbor bought one from me.
Yeah.
And then, I just got a text, after that weekend that another neighbor wants that same kind of setup. So, I mean, even Blake.
Yeah.
Blake, they're like, "Hey man, I want that ATX for the back deck I got it. We got you covered."
Nope.
And I think people have a thing about, looking at wildlife and just being connected to it. And maybe that's just as connected as I'll get.
Mm-hmm. Optics do connect you with nature. I mean,
100%.
We all like to see them close up. And that's
then
the way
not to
see
mention
them.
all the people that buy that stuff and then they use it for hunting. But my kids think it's the coolest thing in the world when I pull a BTX out and look at the, whatever red moon or, eclipse or whatever's going on for the day. Yep. They think that's the coolest thing in the world. So there's just so much about it that I enjoy doing. And I mean, I guess I'll keep doing it as long as they'll have me and as long as we keep doing good and coming up with fun stuff to talk about and new products to bring on.
Yeah. So when it comes to optics, how can people get a hold of you here at GOHUNT when they have questions?
Optics at GOHUNT.com. That's the best way, most efficient way. You can always call the main line, 702-847-8747, and Taylor or Paul or Michaela or any of the CS team will get you in touch with me. I'm generally not answering the first line phones, but they will.
Yeah, put you in touch.
They will put me in touch, and I just ask people like, hey, if you call me, give me an opportunity, and you can call me back. But you can give me an opportunity to respond, and I try very, very hard to return every one of my phone calls by day's end, and I do make mistakes, and I'm not going to say I don't ever miss one. I'm just saying I do my best to try everything, by the end of the day.
I also like too that now we have that the GOHUNT showroom all finished.
Oh, buddy,
we got some optics sitting out there now.
We got some optics sitting out there.
So the guys are in the Las Vegas area. Girls want to come in and check us some optics.
We're still figuring out the layout and how everything's going to function together. And but man, Paul and
is this the first time you've seen it?
Well, I mean, other than pictures, to walk in and actually feel it and look, touch, and understand how the depth of it and how big it is. I just couldn't. Those guys, Kevin and Paul and the new gal, Sid.
Yeah. I think
so. I mean, they're doing an awesome job, and I think it's going to be a destination place people want to come and visit and meet the great, Brady himself.
No, they want to hang out with you and talk optics.
Yeah, but
I just sit in my back little corner and punch keyboard all day and test things out.
Well, sometimes we have to do that.
Yep. So we'll probably end on that. This is a pretty action-packed podcast.
Yeah. Well, we've got some stuff. There's some new stuff coming in the shop, and we're always working on stuff. And I've got the interest in people. So we talked about it last time about the tripods and stuff that we're working on. So things are coming and progressing, and we're just trying to make things more efficient and help people make decisions better, faster, and so that it serves their needs.
Yeah, and I just want to point out a few things too. So if you guys missed it, we launched a couple different YouTube videos you and I did recently. Some of the tripod videos.
Yep.
And obviously, we talked about this one. We have Kowa now in the GOHUNT Gear Shop, so you guys can check that out. And if you did miss Cody and I's last podcast, I know I referenced that several times in here. That's just podcast episode 34 on the Big Hunt Guys podcast. Definitely check that out. That was probably, anytime I could hang out with you, Cody, is probably the highlight of my life. But that was a really good podcast. I felt like we talked about a lot of different gems of different glassing techniques. Like I said, the mental side of glassing, all sorts of different gems we jumped into there. So be sure to check out that podcast. And
hey, one of the things I wanted to bring up that I didn't, I was laughing because I was supposed to ship these binos back and I didn't. And I was talking to Cortland at Zeiss, and he's like, "Hey man, where are my binos?" And I'm like, "I'm just not going to be back in time for that yet." And so I bought myself a couple more days. But I took out the new. We talked about a video that we did with the Zeiss SFLs.
Yep.
And I got to be honest with you, I took them out. I used them on those bowls and played with them in some different distances and man, I was really impressed with those outdoors at low light. I would tell people to please give the Zeiss SFLs a shot. I think they're really going to be impressed with them.
I liked hearing that you finagled your way to keep them for a little bit longer to try to look through them more.
Well, I thought he was gone, and
yep.
I might have missed that. Cortland, if you're watching, I really apologize. I owe you a phone call back today, but man, but that sometimes is just how we get opportunities to we don't always have 20 of them laying around that we can just all take.
It's hard.
And I think sometimes people have that thing on like, oh, you just go grab what you want. Well, we do, but like in this instance, I just had to use the ones that. Because the ones that we'll use for the shop just aren't here yet. So, and those will be here one day. But and it's the same thing with the ATC and the STC.
Yeah, it's gonna be really exciting launch.
I would when that finally starts to show, I would really ask for people to get out and try to go look behind one, because I just don't think you're going to find a hole in it.
Yep.
I really don't. I think that as an optical piece with a variable eyepiece, I just don't think you're going to find a big hole in it. I was incredibly impressed. So those two pieces of gear, and then along with bringing in the Kowa, that we're continually mashing on that, pushing on different stuff. So
it's exciting times to be a consumer looking at optics.
Yeah,
like we've been saying the whole time. There's just more tools out there, more options.
Yep.
Whatever your use case is, I guarantee you, we can find an optic for you.
Yes, sir.
Or a tripod, or whatever it may be, bino harness, whatever you're looking for.
Optics at GOHUNT.com, and then they can always subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Yep.
And then the 702-847-8747 phone number.
And if there's anything too, like we always miss things too, or just sometimes take things for granted on what we do, or what Cody does, or what myself do. So if you ever have any suggestions of topics you want to cover, I would love to keep doing this series with you more, talking about different strategies. So if anyone has any questions, drop them in the comments below their YouTube, or reach out to us. And
how many times, Brady, did we talk about something that you could go, oh, well, I don't want to go down that hole, right?
Yeah.
But if you want to talk about angled and
that's right, we can dive in as deep as we need to. We can go out to
the truck and put them on window mounts, and we could do all kinds of fun stuff. And I think that those are things that we, I'd kind of like to hear from some of our audience and say, hey, well, what do you want to know more about?
Yep.
Because I could do this all day long and not get tired of it and enjoy it. And I'm more than happy to share my knowledge of that.
Yep. I just want to take everything that's in that brain right now and broadcast it to our audience at all times.
Yeah. There's a lot going on. All right. So, but
right.
More than happy to help out, bud.
I appreciate the time. And like we said, till next time, we'll keep doing this. And we got a little bit more fun to have.
Stay tuned.
Cody's here. So
maybe I'll have some big bull picks next that my buddy's wife is going to kill here in a week.
Sharing's caring, Cody. Sharing is caring. Show those pics when you guys get them.
What a great hunt that is.
Yeah. But I appreciate it.
You got it, man.
Take care, buddy.
Appreciate it.